and hijrah from India to Malaysia. I, Zakir Abdul Karim Naik, was born on the 18th of October 1965 in the city of Bombay, today known as Mumbai, in the state of Maharashtra in India. Today, I am 56 years, 2 months, and 28 days young. My parents, both my parents, they were highly educated. They were broad-minded and they were practicing Muslims. But even though they were practicing Muslims, they never forced any of us, any of my brothers and sisters, including me, to follow any of the faraiz in Islam. They never forced us, but they were practicing Muslims. So much so that I remember the first time when I observed the fast at the age of 3 or 4, it was against the wishes of my parents. Because they said, how could a 3-year-old person fast? But I wanted to fast, and it was against my wishes. I saw my mother praying. I used to join her. They never told me to pray. And alhamdulillah, we were a practicing Muslim following the faraiz, abstaining from haram. Me, along with my siblings, we were 5, 2 brothers and 3 sisters. The eldest was my sister. Her name was Lubna. Her name is Lubna, rather. Next is my elder brother, Muhammad. Then my second sister, Naila. My third sister, Salwa. And then me, Zakir. I was the youngest amongst all 5. And being the youngest was a little bit more pampered. I did my schooling in St. Peter's High School in Masgon, Bombay, India. Though St. Peter's High School was managed by a Christian Protestant organization, educational organization, more than 80% of the students, we were Muslims. It was a co-ed school. And from school days, I used to avoid talking to girls. I never spoke to any of my classmates who were girls or schoolmates, not because there was any restriction from the deen or from Islam. It was my innate nature not to intermingle with opposite sex. From childhood, I used to stammer. From childhood, from the time I can recollect, I used to stammer. When anyone used to ask me, what is your name? I would say, my name is Zakir. I was, you could say, a born stammerer. Or another English word is stutterer. I used to stutter from childhood. And there are different people who stammer, some mild, some moderate. I was an excessive stammerer. So much so that whenever I used to reply, I used to even jump. So when someone asked me, what is the name of my name is then Zakir. So until I did not jump, that keyword would not come out. And I remember many a time when I stood below the doorknob, because I was short young, and when I used to stammer, and when I used to jump, I used to get a lump on my head. So I was a stammerer, and everyone knew that. So the biggest defect that was there, that I had, and amongst my friend circle, was that I was a stammerer. So it was like a psychological block for me. And in school, mashallah, I was very good in studies, always got every year awards, books, and I was very good in mathematics. Almost all the years I got the best in mathematics award. But there was a subject in our school called as public speaking. And I used to get PF. PF means pass fail. Because the teachers used to have pity on me. Poor stammerer, poor stutterer. So we'll just pass fail, PF. And I was known. That was my biggest drawback in school, a stammerer. But alhamdulillah, otherwise, in studies, mashallah. After I passed my school, I joined the Science Junior College. That is Kishan Chand Chilaram College, KC College, in Churchgate, Mumbai. And I finished my 11th and 12th. I did my science. And it was my desire, since school days, to become a doctor, like my father, and become a surgeon. So I did my science stream, and then I was later on admitted to the Jawaharlal Nehru Medical College in Belgaum, in Karnataka. The medical college is for 3 academic years. Each academic year is for 1.5 calendar year. So it's the 4.5 year studies, then 1 year internship. I finished my first academic year and 2 terms of the second year, and I took transfer to Bombay. And then I joined the Topiwala National Medical College in Bombay Central, also called as Naik Hospital. So I took a transfer in the second year in 1987. I finished my school in 1982. I did 2 years of my 11th and 12th, which is also called as A-level. Then joined the medical college in 1984. Took a transfer in 1987, and I came back to Bombay. And my father, alhamdulillah, he was a medical doctor. His name, Dr. Abdul Karim Muhammad Naik, rahimullah. May Allah have mercy on him and me in Jannah. He was a medical doctor, passed his MBBS, and he was a psychiatrist, a doctor, say of the mental people, psychiatrist. At that time, very few psychiatrists were there. He was the first Muslim president of the Indian Psychiatric Association, first Muslim psychiatrist. My father came from a very poor background, a humble background. There were 14 siblings, 7 brothers and 7 sisters. And he was the only graduate in his family. Then he became a doctor, he became a postgraduate. He was born in Ratnagiri, a city in the Konkan region, Maharashtra. And alhamdulillah, he became one of the most prominent Konkani Muslims of his time. My father, he was so poor, he didn't have money to pay for his school fees or his medical college fees. So what he did, he distributed milk in the morning. He distributed newspaper to earn a few rupees and gather it and pay the fees. And my father was proud. He said, you should never be shy as long as the work you do is honest and it is not un-Islamic. And even I am not shy to say that my father was a milkman or was a newspaper vendor. I'm proud of it. Alhamdulillah, after he passed his medical studies, he had a flourishing business, so much so that Allah blessed him with a lot of niyama of this world. But when my father, when he started earning, he saw to it, he spent a large portion of his income for the poor, the destitute, and the widows. I don't know any needy person who has approached my father and my father did not help him. My father taught us, never be extravagant on yourself, never. But spend on education, no problem. He taught us that invest by helping the poor and the needy. My father used to say, I would never give anyone money to watch a movie, but if you want to buy books, I can give you 10 times more, 100 times more. He loved traveling. He went to several countries. He visited most of the major countries in the world, attending conferences, seminars, whether religious, whether it be medical. My father, alhamdulillah, was a philanthropist. He was very well known for his social activities, for his educational activities, for his religious institutions. He was the president, the chairman of umpteen numbers of educational institutions, of social institutions, of religious institutions. I can only give a talk on my father's background for a few hours. I don't intend doing that. But in short, he was very well known. So much so that wherever I went, they used to say, there is the son of Dr. Abdul Karim Naik. But alhamdulillah, wherever when I started traveling in the world, almost all the countries I traveled, someone or the other knew my father. Either he helped them for the scholarship fees, or gave them hostel facilities, or gave them medical aid, and alhamdulillah, that really pleased us when we traveled throughout the world. This was in brief about my father. My father also had a passion of meeting religious personalities and even social and political personalities. He knew most of the religious Islamic figures in India and also some abroad. One of his friends, by the name of Dr. Ali Mate from Cape Town, he used to send him video cassettes of Sheikh Ahmed Deedat. And when I came back to Bombay in 1987, we come back to 1987, I hardly saw about 1 or 2 cassettes of Sheikh Deedat, maybe half, 3/4. In December 1987, Sheikh Ahmed Deedat happens to come to Bombay. And my father tells me, Sheikh Ahmed Deedat is staying with my friend. Why don't you accompany me? We'll go and meet him. I wasn't really enthusiastic to meet him. But because my father requested, to keep my father happy, I went. So me and my brother, we accompanied my father to meet Sheikh Ahmed Deedat. I did not know much about him. I had seen maybe half of his video, 1.5. When I went, when we entered the house of my father's friend, we could see that towering personality, 6'3" Sheikh Ahmed Deedat with a white beard. Impressive. And he told us that I have come to India for a few days. I had been to Tatkeshwar, Surat, the place where Sheikh Ahmed Deedat was born. And you may be knowing that at the age of 6, he went to South Africa, and that's another long story, we won't touch that. So he came to visit his hometown, the place of birth, for a few days, and he was returning back to South Africa. And he said tomorrow, we went to meet him in the late evening or early night. And he told me, tomorrow late night, I'm flying back to South Africa. So my father told him, why don't you give a lecture tomorrow? So Sheikh Deedat said, how can you arrange a lecture in less than 24 hours? We can start the lecture after Maghrib, and your flight is late in the night. He said, how can you arrange? My father said, inshallah, we'll do it. Imagine at that time in 1987, there was no social media. There was no mobile. If you had to do publicity, you had to give an ad in the newspaper. That was a few days before. Late in the night, you cannot give ads for tomorrow. But Sheikh Deedat, he agreed. He said, okay, I'm free, I don't mind, arrange a lecture. So my father, my brother, and myself, I was only 22 years old that time. And my father, because he was involved in many institutions, for him to get auditorium was very easy. He booked the Alma Latifi Hall in Sabu Siddiq in Bombay, which had a capacity of 800 seats. But I was wondering, how could we fill 800 people overnight? And alhamdulillah, next day, there were more than 1,000 people there. Not only more than 1,000 people, the creme de la creme of the Muslim community of Bombay were there. The rich businessmen were there, the philanthropists were there, the educationists were there,